Okay, so welcome back to Q&As with MrB, and we're going to kick off with a question from Paul, who is looking to take over a restaurant in Buckinghamshire and wants to know if there is any benefits to being a limited company as opposed to a sole trader.
I reckon if you ask any accountant, that would probably be the number one question. And it's getting even harder to answer it with the Chancellor putting up the taxes on limited companies. And I don't know if you saw, Amanda, when he did a speech, I think it was during the COVID times, where he said he was going to bridge the gap between limited companies and sole traders because he wanted to make it an even playing field. Don't know if you remember that. He did a speech in the House of Commons on that. So, first of all, it depends on your personal tax situation. So let's assume you don't have any other income and this will be your only income. Then really, if you're looking at 50k profit plus, it's probably more tax efficient to start looking at a limited company option. If your profits will be less than 50,000, it's potentially worth staying as a sole trader. Another point to mention, by the way, if you are a trading company, so a restaurant, i.e. not buying buy-to-let investment properties, right? So you actually are a trading business, then you could start off as a sole trader and move to a limited company if your profits start to get to 50,000. Because if I was Paul, I'd say, well, hang on, Dave, how do I know? I'm just about taking over the restaurant. How do I know what I'm going to take in profits? And that's fine. When you could be trading 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, whatever. You can take it across to a limited company and it would be taxed. There's a tax-free way of doing that. We'd have to do some exemptions for you and a certain section in law where we can get you that tax relief for moving from a sole trader to a limited company. So that's the first thing to mention, is start off as a sole trader. Now that's for tax efficient reasons only. However, there's a big but here. It's a brand new business. Limited liability means limited liability. And that means that if it all goes wrong in the company, then you can walk away from any debts. You don't take those debts personally. It's a separate legal entity. So the good thing about a limited company is the protection it can offer you. Obviously, if you sign any personal guarantees, by the way, you're stuck with those.
Yeah, you're stuck with those, yeah.
Correct. But if you haven't signed any personal guarantees, and even HMRC, whoever you owe money to, if you have to professionally liquidate that company, so do it properly, you won't have those debts follow you. And also, it doesn't actually affect, which is very surprising, most people don't know this, it doesn't affect your personal credit record. You will have a record on Companies House of a failed company. So if somebody looked into your history as a director, they'd find that. But honestly, that really doesn't matter. I've known people to get business loans and they've had failed companies. So it doesn't matter. And the personal credit is totally protected. So your house, your pension, and you won't have to go bankrupt. On the other side, if you stay as a sole trader, it's your debt. Everything's your debt. So you're stuck with personal debt. The thing against limited company is it's much more complex, much more reporting to do to HMRC and Companies House versus a sole trader that just has to do a self-assessment. So of course accountancy fees are more expensive for a limited company because there's more work for us to do, right? So really that's why I say it depends. It depends on a lot of things. It depends what you want. Do you want protection? If you do, you've got to go limited regardless of tax efficiencies. If you're not really sure, you could go sole trader and move to limited later. If you want to really reduce any risk, you go limited straight away. But your fees will be higher as a limited company. Does that answer that question?
Certainly does. Thank you for that, Mr. B. Okay, so our next question then is Mark from Warwickshire. He wants to know if you can help him with his upcoming rent review.
Yes, I can. Tide pubco rent reviews. There is also market rent only options, which are most restaurants, cafes, etc. will have rent reviews, just as Tide pub companies will. Now the market rent options, you're better off getting a chartered surveyor Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor member to do your rent reviews, because it's based on the market value. It's not based on numbers. But the tied pubco model, which Mark is, by the way, he's tied to a brewery. So therefore, it's all about the numbers, the way it works. There's a legislation had been written called the Pub Code, which helps accountants to help their clients get a fair rent. And a fair rent is ultimately based on a 50-50 share of the profits before the rent. And the pubcos and your advisors, hopefully would be your accountant, would be us, would be advising you and also negotiating with the pubco to get your rent reduced. So yes, we can definitely help, and we have a lot of experience in tied pubco rent reviews. Been doing that for about 15 years now, and very successfully. And but we don't do market rent only options, but we do have RICS members that we can recommend for that.
Oh, okay. Well, when you say successfully, what do you mean by successfully?
Okay, so what I mean, and it might be hard to believe, for 15 years I have, with my clients, I have never lost a pubco rent review. When I say lost, the client has never had to pay what the pubco thinks they should pay. It's always been less. Now, I've got to put in, if any pubcos are watching, I've got to say one thing, however. Lots of pubcos will give you a fair rent from the start. And if they do that, my recommendation to the client would be to take it, so I don't get into negotiations. I don't represent tenants if I think they've been offered a fair rent. I will always say
that's a successful outcome in itself. It's fair rent.
I will work it out. Obviously, I'll look at the figures and then I will see what the rent should be. And if I agree with what the pubco's saying, my advice to the client is don't take them on, because by the way, if you can't agree amicably, let's say, with the pubco, there is an option to go to PERS, which is like an arbitration service. If it goes that far, we can support our clients, but we would recommend they get a Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor again, to help them at the PERS, because PERS is arbitrated by an RICS member. So you're much better off being represented by an RICS member. And the pubcos will certainly be putting forward their RICS members. But we as accountants can help that. And also, another thing to mention, if you are a client of ours already, like Mark, we don't charge for stage one either. And stage one, we've managed to successfully get a good rent deal straight away at stage one, quite a lot of the time. And that's when we just do the figures. We just do a P&L to show you what we think the rent should be, comparing it against the P&L the pubco think it should be. And we've quite often managed to get our clients to negotiate a good deal there, and we don't charge for that. The second stage is when you need me to come and hold your hand, if you like, and sit in on the meetings with the pubcos, especially if they're going to be asking you lots of accounting questions. You're going to go, I don't know, I need Dave, where's Dave?
I come with you at that point.
I come with you. I've had a couple of pubcos actually get up and walk out in a huff, but I never ever get like that. I'm very calm, but I don't negotiate like that. I negotiate that everyone. I expect everybody to be fair and transparent, like I am.
What's the most unreasonable rent that you've had to negotiate, and what was the outcome?
This one went to PERS actually, and it was a 68,000 rent for a community pub and in Amersham. And we got in fact, I did represent that client. I didn't get an RICS member in. It was that PERS meeting afterwards I thought, from now on, can I get an RICS member in? Because it was quite difficult. Intimidating, that's a good word. It was intimidating, but still got a good result. From 64,000 rent they wanted, and we got 38,000 rent. So that's So to be fair, the pubco relationship with that tenant wasn't great, and they stuck to their guns with this 64 grand rent, which was ridiculous for a community boozer. Post smoking ban as well, so and it had no garden, so they lost a lot of business during the smoking ban. It's way back then, 2007 was that? So it's way, quite a while ago. So it's quite a while ago that was. So that was 16 years ago, right? Yeah, 16 years ago. So that's the first one at PERS. We went to PERS another time as well, again without RICS, and got the rent reduced by 10k. But I've had loads of rents reduced by 10, 20k from stage one.
Great, real. That's what you're sort of ultimately after, a good, fair rent at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, Matt, I've got to say, I love that job as well. I love it because can any accountant say they've just saved their client on that one where it's 38 from 64, nearly £30,000 a year. It was great to do that. So I felt great about that. Even when I've just done one very recently, a couple of weeks ago, it took 9 months of arguing. Negotiating. It took 9 months, and actually the client was ready to give in. They were ready to say, I don't think we're going to come on, Dave. This, and I said, no, guys, honestly, they're doing it on purpose. They're dragging it out because they want you to say what you're doing. To give in. Don't give in. Keep fighting because you're right. The rent's too high. We got it reduced by 10k. We actually first tried to get 15k reduction, but we negotiated on a 10k reduction. So it's £10,000 that we just saved our client.
Well worth it, and a happy client at the end of the day.
Very happy client, yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, Mr. B, I think we'll leave it there today. So if you like those Q&As with Mr. B and want to see more, please check out Carol's TV page on our website. That's www.carolaccountants.co.uk. That's with 2 R's and 2 L's. See you next time.